choose death as the price to enrich the next generation is a mission I cannot refuse, even if my body has begun to decay. But before I completely turn into a pool of rotten flesh, I must still strive with all my might to return to my birthplace, paving the final earth with my flesh and blood. This is nature's ultimate command, and the destiny written in my genes. I cannot escape it, nor can I break free. My name is Salmon, also known as Trout. My life began in this clear river. The sand upon the riverbed served as the cradle for my development. At that time, I was merely a minuscule ovum, and the rushing current tipped my shell just like a mother's tender, clasping hands, my dormant core pressed against the glimmer of the breaking shell, and I witnessed this world for the very first time. At first, my reality was one of instability and utter confusion. However, the moment I exerted force to break through that last binding, the vista before me instantly became clear. The stream babbles here, and bright light spots swim among the stones. Like crushed titanium falling into the water, the dark green water weeds swayed gracefully like dancers in the water, brushing away a trace of unease for my newly arrived little life. Countless companions, as small as I and glowing with fluorescence, darted and chased among the water weeds. I added my clear white tail fin to the group, swimming, frolicking, and maturing alongside them. Compared to my tragic life, this childhood period was one of the few moments of relative peace and quiet I experienced. The spring training of the third year arrived month by month, and the current, carrying the impulse of new life, became swift and surging. With thousands of siblings, I became a torrent, swept toward the unknown downstream. The banks, forests, and cliffs rushed by, homes' outline faded behind. We were pulled by the current, leaving our familiar hometown, rushing toward a new destination, the ocean. The vast Pacific was our roaming ground. Here, we chased below the forests, fleeing the world. The game of hunting and fleeing is staged day after day. Gradually, we shed our immaturity, don shining armor, gather strength in the cold sea, and feel the chilling bubble in endless games. In 4 years, I transformed from a palm-sized fry into a muscular adult salmon. The ocean granted me a strong physique, but it also secretly planted an irresistible command within me. When the cold current of the 7th late autumn flows into the seawater again, a burning impulse surges and churns within my body like a great wave. The fennel's brand suddenly awakens, and I look around to see the same fire ignited in the eyes of countless companions. It was an awakening, bordering on tragic grandeur, a finality settling like dust. Even facing rapids, sickness, or fierce fights, we never hesitated. Not because we have no fear, but because we know we are fearless. The mission is more important than survival. No words needed. 500 million salmon turn at once, surging toward their ancestral home 1,000 miles away. The waves churn. Every drop of color once carried our 4 years of wandering and growth, yet now it cannot hold back our resolve. As ocean wanderers, we have nature's best navigation, finding our way without help across 1.8 billion square kilometers, accurately locating the path back to our birthplace. For us, the hardest part isn't finding the way home, but knowing the end of this road is decay and demise, yet still being willing to walk it to the very end. Swimming against the current is destined to be an expedition founded upon flesh and blood, to adapt to the different environment. From the moment we enter the freshwater, we stop eating and stop drinking, relying only on stored energy to finish this journey of thousands of kilometers. The river mouth shoal is our first trial. Sharp rocks tore our bellies, greedy gulls took our eyes, more cormorants died. However, the mud and core of the shallows are merely the first mound of earth, the first drop of blood on the tortoise and hare's altar. Ahead, the roar of the river faintly carries. That is the call of a harsher trial. The waterfall, several meters high, is the touchstone testing the warriors. Only the strongest, bravest warriors can force a way through. Jump, fall, jump again. Each movement strikes fate. Each upstream push is a trap. In the countless leaps and collisions where life itself was the wager, countless companions died from exhaustion or by smashing against the rocks. The fall of every companion casts a huge shadow in our hearts, reminding us that every single step on this return journey could be our last. However, looking around, there was nothing to retreat from. The flames in our eyes were not extinguished by fear. Instead, fueled by the sacrifice of our comrades and the bloody stimulation, burned even more fiercely. We raised our heads, our silver armor tattered, our gazes sharp as javelins, once again striving to swing our tails towards that surging torrent, towards the source of our destiny, against the flow. After being on this journey for 4 weeks, our bodies started undergoing transformations. Spots of red light emerged on the sides of our bodies. This is our distinctive reproductive coloring. The deeper the red, the stronger the ability. After half a month, we had nearly transformed entirely. The male's back developed a hump, and the lower jaw became hooked. Concurrently, the digestive system began to shrink while the reproductive organs grew robustly. Every one of these physical shifts was dedicated to a single final objective: procreation. Although there were still more than 100 kilometers remaining to the spawning grounds, the strength of the hunters had already been depleted. Deadly traps are set in the front. The white-tailed eagle hangs like death itself in the sky. They swoop down from high altitude, their steel-hooked claws digging deep into our exhausted and sluggish backs. Even the strongest warriors in the school of fish cannot escape the fate of being yanked from the water by those powerful talons. However, the most heart-pounding threat comes from the riverbank. Zhongxiong's massive silhouette is coiled at the key junction of the river mouth and the rapid current. His seemingly clumsy giant paws contain terrifying power. Every strike is accompanied by the sudden extinguishing of several lives. The turbid river water and the dark reflection weave together. Shattered flesh and bone litter the riverbed, turning into toys ripped apart by the bear's paws and provisions stored in its stomach. Those siblings who were detained here by fate, failing to reach the spawning grounds, their gazes grow dim and their bodies gradually become rigid. In the end, their blood and flesh will decay into sustenance, feeding the moss and insects along the shore, completing the cycle of flesh and bone through mortality, the mutual life cycle. It turns out, nature had already written the most moving language in the most vivid way. On the way back, some fall, some die, but none quit. We persist, even though we are already covered in scars, even though our ideals become grotesque in the face of reality. We still grit our teeth and bleed, walking with a smile. Fate is not the end, but the start. Ideals are not obsession, but direction. Finally, when autumn frost reddens the maple leaves again, I returned to that familiar strange water. The water was clear and shallow, revealing the bottom. The pebbles on the stream bed were as smooth as ever, and the scent of the bank's soil and the taste of the submerged leaves were exactly the same as deep in my memories. In that moment, all the hardship, all the depletion, turned out to be so worthwhile. However, my body was already nearing its limit. The rich ocean maple grounds are gone, leaving only an image. Though the shell has been utterly devoured by the parasitic insects, the most profound instinct within my life continues to blaze. I exhaust the last of my remaining strength, using my tail gas to carve a niche for life among the familiar pebbles. This is the egg-laying bed I meticulously prepared, not seeking splendor or dazzle, but only to give the life about to arrive a starting point full of love and a sense of security. When the long gestating egg in my abdomen slides into the stone hollow like a pearl, the last spark of fiery belief deep in my soul settles down safely with it. Child unseen, parent unseen, generation after generation, child and parent missing each other. This is the evil omen of our destined return to one life. I float powerlessly by the edge of the sinkhole, already dissipating like mist, and before the eternal darkness descends, I sense the tiny lives blindly stirring awake from the eggs we entrusted them to. They grow blindly and surely, completely unaware that what nourishes them is precisely our dissolving flesh and bone. The feast, with me as the first jade offering, awaits the new Yuzi's growth. They will inherit the eternal porcelain needle. One day, they too will follow the guidance of their bloodline and embark on this magnificent and ceaseless journey home. Nourishing new life with fading, supporting hope with decay, meeting in the return, living forever through legacy. This is life's most beautiful form.